Can you remember the most important word that we stress out throughout this program? And I told you that you're going to hear me talking about over and over and over and again. And that has to be actually the theme, and why not say the mission of your business? Do you remember that? Well, if you don't know what it is, that's exactly the reason why I brought this bonus section to you. And we're going to stress this a little bit more, but now we're someone that knows what she's talking about. So I have here with me a surprise for you, a good friend of mine. She's an architect. She is an interior designer. She has a master's degree in sustainability. She works 5 years in a construction company in London. She was a former director of one of the biggest self-developed education company down in Brazil. She's currently in the US. She's creating an amazing experiences, here's your clue, with Airbnb, and she's now working using virtual reality to improve sales, real estate sales, even before the property is built. I learned a ton from her in the beginning. I was always like, asking her questions, asking her advice, and a lot of this experience theme I got from her. And when I come up with the idea of this masterclass, I had no other option than invite her to actually, give us the honor to come and learn from her. She was part of the pilot program of the first Airbtheboss course. And I want to welcome to this very, very, very special session of the masterclass, Renata. Good to have you here.
Thanks for having me here.
Okay, Renata. So tell us a little bit, how you were able to utilize your skills and match that with the Airbnb concept, and tell us a little bit about how was your, how you started in the business.
Actually, I started not knowing many years ago when I read Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Okay.
This was even before being an architect.
Okay.
And coming from a family with.
And aren't you glad that you met the smart dad?
Yep. Yeah, I come from the poor dad. Not so poor. My family has a medical background, but not an open mind for business. So I decided to take a different route. And as an architect, one of my first jobs was in the commercial area. And when you are working in the commercial, you are doing projects for people who is having a higher bill for rent.
Okay.
So the project has to be fast.
Got it.
You need to do it in a week or in a day. The pressure is very high, and you have to buy everything pretty fast because the guy is paying rent, and they want to open fast. So that's the main experience that I bring for Airbnb, to do something amazing, but not to have the client waiting and paying a rent while I'm working on a project.
Okay. And what did you like more about the Airbnb concept? Because, as you know, it brings a different perspective when it comes to investing. I know you, I know your story. You used to, you're still an investor, but you used to do the old model, right? The rich dad model, where you buy something and then you rent, and then, that thing's going to pay it off in 30 years. What was your first impression when you came across of the concept of, now we don't have to buy a property anymore? And how was the result after you start implementing that new strategy that comes from the smart dad versus, the old model?
It made it possible because, I was crazy finalizing the book, but the first thing was how I'm going to buy my first house.
Okay.
And I was stuck for years on that concept. I even had the first house. I, had some properties back in Brazil, but I was trying to calculate, okay, how am I going to sell one house and turn it into 2 houses, turn it into 4 houses? But with Airbnb, you don't need to have this. You don't need to have the background. You can rent. Anyone can afford the rent. You can organize yourself for your life in order to be able to afford the rent.
Okay.
So it made it possible. It was the entire change for me.
And in other words, this new strategy eliminate the entry barrier for a lot of people that dreams about become a real estate investor. Is that
it makes it possible for everyone.
Statement?
Yeah, it makes it possible for everyone that really wants to do it.
Okay.
If we talk about interior design, you have many options. I mean, we see people being really professional out there. So you cannot no longer play. Let me just decorate here for fun. That's not how it works.
Okay. Well, we're going to get to the technical aspects in a little bit. What I'm more interested now is understanding. Give us a perspective, how was your story? So you came in contact with the principal, then you launched your first property. What was the results on that one? Then how long it took for you to launch your second one? How many properties you have right now? To give us a little bit of an idea on the business aspect, before we can educate people how they can utilize these skills and how to create an amazing experience.
Not a problem. So as I was saying, when you look to something very professional, you can still do it with a low budget.
Okay.
Even when we are looking
That's very important.
Yeah.
I'm a Jew. I know how a low budget is important.
I know I've done properties for you. So you can still have...
Here's $1,000, Renata. Make it happen.
Yeah. So I think Airbnb makes it possible for everyone who wants to be serious investors.
Okay.
You can be very professional, but it can also be affordable.
And it's fun too, bro.
Yeah, it has to be fun. If it's not fun, don't do it.
Yes,
if you don't enjoy it, hire us. We can do it for you, the part that you think it's hard. So you can still go through marketplace. You can still go through, it has a lot to do. You just need to put object that makes sense there, thinking of the guest experience. Experience is the key word. So if you make a very nice decoration, talking about architecture, but it's a place that someone's not going to feel comfortable there because it's, some places are just a lot of luxury and you don't feel that you can use the place. Okay. So that's not what's going to work. Airbnb, it's for pleasure. It has to make sense and you have to feel at home, no matter how far you are from it.
Okay.
So I started my first property.
I thought she was never going to get to that point.
2 years ago.
I was about to ask her again.
No,
what is she hiding?
2 years ago, I think. Yeah, 2 years ago. I took you there to have a look. And it's actually an interesting story because you had better properties. And you were in upscale's place. And my thought was, okay, that's cheaper. That's my first one. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do it.
I remember back in the days I was building Airbnbs on more high luxury places and you kind of started with the kind of like a B class, property. Yes.
Yeah. But what I had in mind was, let me do it so nice inside, but I'm paying a lower rent. So I'm going to be able to have people in pain. Well, I could raise my price because of what the experience that I was bringing inside, paying a lower rent.
Yeah, so basically you realize that, I was doing and I was working in a place where perhaps a one-bedroom apartment was $1,500, and in that place I believe was like $900. Right?
Yeah.
And I tell my students that if you don't have that appeal on the outside, right? If you're not in a scenic city, or if you don't have any tourist attraction around, it doesn't matter if you create the experience inside versus outside. It doesn't matter as long as you create an experience, and you need to work on the inside and create that amazing feeling. Since you cannot,
Precisely, Airbnb I see as a Tinder for house.
Tinder for house. Oh, that's very interesting.
People is looking at the space. So
just gotta be careful because most of the time, when you meet the person, in person, it doesn't look nothing like the picture.
Okay, so that's why.
So we have a better Tinder.
Yeah. Well, my idea is to over deliver. You will see the photo, and when you get there, it's even better.
Makes sense.
So it's better than Tinder.
Okay, makes sense. So after you start your first one, now how many properties are you running?
Oh dear, that's a hard question because I have properties not only in Texas now, but
Oh, I guess this shit works.
yeah,
If you haven't
but
noticed.
what I'm doing is, to be honest with you, all the properties that I have, it's with someone else. So I
Okay.
have partners.
Makes sense.
I'm helping people.
Oh, that means you can have somebody else's foot the bill and leverage somebody else's money? That's even better.
Yep. So that property that you saw, it's the only one that's my only property.
Got it.
All the others, I'm helping someone, and it's not my only one. So I
Amazing.
share with someone.
I'm so happy for your success. So, talking about experience, right? And I want to make sure I leverage your skills and your expertise, and we can extract as much content we can from you. For someone that's starting right now, remember us back in the days, what is that like a template, or that's like a system or steps or hacks that they can use to create this amazing experience on the budget?
Well, on the budget is the main thing. So you need to plan. Every
You
time
work with me,
plan-
you probably exercise
I
that
know.
muscle
I know.
more than you like to do, though. Remember that time you said, we gotta buy this chair, it's $300. $300 for a chair?
It was the only thing that was expensive there.
I know.
And
And you're gonna talk about that principle, right?
yeah, because when
cool.
you get there, you save a lot of money, but the person who is paying to stay in your place, they want to see that you took an effort to prepare the place for him.
Okay.
So if they look around and they only see very inexpensive things and that you took almost no care, it's not going to leave a good impression.
Okay.
So
So it's actually a hack to make the IKEA where Airbnb looks better.
yes,
Right.
if you go for IKEA, do it,
Mm-hmm.
but get one main piece that they can realize that you spent some money there.
Yeah.
And it doesn't need to be expensive.
I'm in a position right now that if Airbnb ever goes out of business, I might gonna open up a knockoff Airbnb IKEA store because I got so much stuff from IKEA that's not even funny.
Yep, I can imagine.
I got at least 60 sofas, 120 beds. I'm gonna open up a knockoff IKEA store.
Yeah, you do need to plan because I think one of the main keys here is if you're gonna get your keys in 2 weeks' time, for example, your work is there, is before your key is on your hand.
Got it.
So first thing when I get a key or when I get a contract, better saying, is where is it? I need the context. So before I go shopping, I need to know what I'm looking for.
So when you mean, what do you mean by where's the context?
I mean that I'm not doing for me. I'm not doing the design that I would like. I'm preparing for someone.
Okay.
So who is coming? I need to know my client.
Got it.
Okay. So I need
So
to know
who
my
are you
guest.
catering for?
Yes. So
Okay.
precisely. So for example, the state or the city where I'm doing business tells me a lot of information about the guest who is coming. So I need to
Okay.
do this homework. If I'm in Las Vegas, for example, I have a different profile than if I'm in Disney, which is much more
In Orlando.
family
Yeah, in
place.
Orlando, which was, okay.
Yeah, or if I'm in New York, which I'm half people that's coming for the business.
Yeah.
So-
So basically, if you live in Texas
Yep.
and you love country style, you're not gonna ship, country furniture
Yep.
to your apartment in New York because it has nothing to do
doesn't
with the
match.
context. Okay,
Yes.
makes sense.
Yes. So, for example, if you were doing an Airbnb in Orlando for a family, if you do your homework and you realize that most of the guests comes with kids, design a house for kids, for families with kids, not only for kids, because
Okay.
parents are coming as well.
Got it.
So, what's the difference of you staying in a place that the host had this in mind, and versus staying in a place where the host just did a nice decoration?
Okay. Well,
So-
the one thing that I learned from you is that if you're preparing the space for kids, make sure you go to a thrift store or Goodwill and you buy a trunk where you can put used toys for the kids.
Yep.
your walls are gonna say thank you very much for that because they're gonna keep them busy.
As a mom, I can say that I have a 7 or 6 years old at home, and
Are they still alive?
both of them.
Okay, that means you're a good mom.
So when we are traveling, you're in a new space. The kids want to explore the area, so they are curious, and of course, they are full of energy. If all your furnitures are round or don't have any, corners with shapes, if they have, the mom is, oh my gosh, you're not enjoying the book you're reading or not enjoying whatever you're doing because you have to share the attention with them running across the house. And if you can switch this off, because in the first 3 seconds, it takes 3 seconds for your brain to realize that this place is safe or not. We can talk better about this. So if they realize that they can enjoy the place, you can let the kids run, both sides will have fun. The mom can relax, the kids can explore, and you can make this a nice place for them. So for example, let's say, I know when you're in Airbnb, you are mostly out, exploring, out and about, but let's say it's raining, let's say they have to stay home. What can you do to make this enjoyable for them? So just an idea that came here on my mind as if you paint a wall black, you put white chalks for them.
Okay, so they can write on the walls.
They can write on the walls, and you have to think.
It's a good pastime, though.
It is a good pastime, and it's not something. It's different from black pens that they can mark your sofa or doing. It's just a white chalk. So you have to prepare the place for that. You also have much more bookings if you do all your decoration in a very creative way. So don't be usual. Don't stand from the crowd. That's what I'm saying. So
think outside the box.
Think outside the box.
Bring
always.
different experience. When they come in, they look at it, it's like, oh my God, I would love to have this in my house.
Yeah.
And if you're going to do all that crazy stuff where the kids can write it, make sure you get the parents' credit cards on file. I'm just teasing. I'm just teasing.
So
first one is contacts. Make sure you're catering for that. Second thing, make sure you understand who's your audience, who you preparing the property to.
Yeah.
Right?
Just still in a little bit in this point before we move on. It's important to say that people is normally afraid of being creative because they want to be able to have as many as many people, as possible. For example, oh my gosh, if I paint this wall black, someone is not gonna like it. If I put this, someone is not gonna like it. So let me be neutral so everyone is gonna be happy.
Yeah, but you gotta be. But one thing that you need to keep in mind though is that not a lot of people has the perception and the skills. And I mean, when you do something that you're not familiar with, you're gonna be afraid, right? So remember when we were remodeling my RV prior to that, U.S. tour, and you're like, paint all the cabinets black. I was like, black? Is that gonna look good? And became amazing. So if people are not sure about it, where they can go to get inspiration? Because they need visual. So where they can go to look for space and get inspiration?
Okay, so to look for nice inspirations, we have Pinterest, we have Google, anything. But there is an app called SketchUp.
SketchUp, okay.
It's very useful because it's easy to use. You don't need to be an architect. Don't be scared. It's new. It's gonna take you 1, 2, 3 days to learn. But once you learn, especially if you wanna grow your business, it's fun. It's like a video game.
Yeah, just try it out, right?
You will get all the measurements. You put all the measurements there. You build your Airbnb and you start putting furniture. Especially because when you have your list and you are out shopping, because if you have your keys on, boy, you need to be fast buying everything. They
know. I'm usually challenge everybody to build Airbnb in 24 hours. So they know that.
So if you have 24 hours to buy everything, you start, even if you go to IKEA, for example, do you know that IKEA, any store in the world, they have the same layout inside.
Yeah.
So you have like first sofas, then chairs, then okay.
Oh,
So
trust me, I'm a IKEA expert. Am I gonna come up with a course that teach people how to buy an IKEA? Because I've been there
That's a good
so
one.
many times that's not even funny.
that's a good one.
It's funny. Sometimes I see pictures of houses or maybe I'm watching a movie. I see a lamp or I see like a piece of furniture. I look at it and I say, oh, that's a spring catalog, page 87.
Oh my God.
That's how much I know about IKEA. Trust me.
Okay, so even if you're going to IKEA where you can find most of the thing at the same place, it's not going to be fast because you're going to spend, at least 1 hour there. Even you're going to spend at least 1 hour there.
No, I don't.
You do.
Now there's something called click and collect. I do all my shopping online and I pay them $5 to take all the stuff out of the shelf and I pay $20 for them to deliver. So I'm in and out IKEA
I'm
in
talking
20 minutes.
if you were going there.
Okay, if I'm going there. Yeah.
Okay, so and the store, when we start to select, okay, I'm getting this. After 1 hour, you almost don't remember anymore what is already in there or what's matching.
Yeah, because there's a lot of stuff.
It's a lot of stuff.
Sure.
So mark your space.
Plan market space, okay?
Even if you're using SketchUp, this program, there are lots of furniture from IKEA already there. So you can just drag, put inside the
drag and
model
drop. Okay, nice.
It's there.
Okay.
So you are more secure because you are likely to get insecure when you're shopping. Okay, what do we have in the living room? Because when you are in the living room, you cannot think about what matches in the living room because once you are there, you can also see everything that's in the kitchen. Everything.
Yes, depending on
it's
the
not
layout, yeah.
looking only to the wall.
Everything needs to kind of like have a
3D.
flow, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
It all needs
So,
to
and
coordinate.
what are the hacks that we can use to create the amazing experience that
Okay,
we're all aiming for?
talking about experience, there is a movie that I like a lot. I think it's called The Former in English.
The former, okay.
Yeah, talking
I
about.
haven't watched it, but
You did. It's
did?
about McDonald's. How
oh,
McDonald's
the
is it-
founder.
The founder.
The founder,
former.
yes,
The
yes.
founder,
I watched
okay.
6 times.
Sorry, guys.
Yeah, the
So,
founder.
okay, if you talk about the founder, remember a scene where he has drawn into the floor how that
Oh,
would
yeah,
work.
yeah. So they put the layout for the McDonald's store and they testing the layout
and
and,
they were
all that.
testing everything.
Yeah.
So, first thing, put yourself into the scene.
Okay,
How would you like it to be?
got it.
What would be different? Simulate. Do a brainstorm of what you could bring there.
Make sure you do that and you still launch your Airbnb in 24 hours. I'm just
Yes.
kidding.
Okay, it's not 24 hours after the contract. They have time between signing the contract
No,
and
they
getting the
don't.
keys. Okay, but anyway.
So you need to visualize, you need to exercise.
visualize
Okay.
what's interesting to be done there. What could you. So one thing that you asked me to do in Airbnb is what you call wow factor, remember?
Oh yeah, the wow factor. Yeah, I love that.
Okay, so that's where most people get stuck.
Okay.
What to do, what do I put, has to be something different. So first thing that I can tell you guys is be creative.
Okay.
You are only impressed by the wow factor because you didn't expect this to be there.
Makes sense.
And
do you have an idea of contracts what to do and what not to do when it comes to the wow factor?
Okay, what not to do. Don't get something very hard to clean.
Okay.
Your cleaner has very short time, and if you have something with lots of shapes, lots of edge, lots of it's a place for your guests to run their fingers and give you not a so good reveal.
And you got to make sure that you have a quick turnover on a property.
Yeah.
And it has to be something that can be easy clean. And for fact that perhaps the cleaner are going to miss that spot.
Yeah.
And you don't want that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you want to make it easier for her, not harder. So that's the first point. Second one is what you put there. People normally get lost. So first idea is find an object, whatever you like. Name something.
Oh, I'm going to use one of the examples that I did recently in one of the houses. Clocks.
Okay, clocks. Instead of getting one clock, get lots of clocks.
Oh, we got 25 of them. Trust me.
Okay, so
We'll fill up my entire wall with the clocks.
okay, so
They're never going to miss the checkout time.
Are they
They have no
showing?
they have no excuse but the checkout time.
Did
And
you
we
put
make
alarm?
sure we program the alarm for 11 o'clock. Like, get the fuck out.
So, Marcus. Anyway,
They're all family. Don't
if
worry
you're
about
going
it.
for
They know me.
clocks, get like 20 clocks. That's a good idea because if you repeat the same object, they're going to be in harmony. If you look through nature, we feel good in nature because it's the perfect vibration.
Okay.
And it's the perfect vibration because it's in harmony. If you look there, you have groups of things.
Okay.
You know, so naturally things are organized by groups.
Got it.
So if you make a group of clocks, it's gonna look good.
Okay.
So this you can do.
What about the number one detail you told me? That's something about the scale of the objects. That's something that's very important. That's a principle that we cannot break
That's a
when
good
it comes
one.
to that.
There is a picture here that we can use and show them an example. If you use 100 small clocks instead of 20 big ones, when you're looking to the small ones, your vision is trying to focus into one. So your vision is doing this. You are closing the focus.
Okay.
If you have big ones, your vision is gonna open.
Got it.
So it's much more pleasant if your brain can, in 3 seconds, figure out what is there,
Okay.
than if it has to work harder. So you need to put things into your property that you have the green flag from your brain in 3 seconds.
Got it.
So it's gonna analyze, it's gonna say it's safe to stay here. You know, it's a place that you can enjoy, you can relax, it's comfortable because it scans everything in 3 seconds and say, stay. So
I've been doing the right thing
without
without knowing, simply because when I look at 100 small clocks versus 10 big ones, my brain is gonna go, I'm gonna go to the big ones because it's gonna be much easier to install that thing.
Yeah, but what we can do here and what I could say here also is talking about the 3 seconds that your brain use. Whatever you can use from nature makes you feel more comfortable into the space. Instead of, let me give you an example. Let's be practical here. If you can use, talking about clocks, if they are made of wood, it's your brain will feel more comfortable than if it's made for metal.
Yeah.
Because if you touch the metal and if it's cold during the winter, it's gonna feel cold. If you touch during the summer, it's gonna feel hot.
Isn't
But
that one of the principles that Starbucks introduced
Round
long
tables.
time ago? Because you go to the Starbucks, it's all those the same tonality. It's everything is wood, it's earth tones. And then remember back in the days, McDonald's was like yellow, red, because they want to make sure you feel hungry, but it was not an inviting place. And now McDonald's is remodeling all the stores to make more comfortable so people stay longer. The same way you go to Starbucks and you stay there like the whole afternoon, right? So it's kind of like the same concept.
did you know that Starbucks did a study and started putting round chairs? They
Okay.
started this because you feel more comfortable in round chairs, especially
really?
if you're alone.
Interesting.
If you are in a square chair, not chair, sorry, table.
Table.
Oh my gosh, chairs. So if you are in a square table, what's gonna happen?
We can edit out, don't worry about it.
It's okay, they're family, as you said. Okay, so if they are sitting in a square table, it's supposed to, someone can look at you and say, where's the other person? She's waiting there. You look at a woman there that's studying or whatever, doing business, and someone, or a man, it's a better example, a man. Where's the other person? They are waiting for someone. They are someone that still have to come, or someone didn't show up, or, but if it's a round one, it can fit one person only.
Amazing.
There is a logic behind everything.
Okay, cool. So first, make sure the context. Second of all, make sure who you're catering for, right? Third, study the layout. And then 3 more tips how we can make sure we create this amazing experience.
Okay, for the experience.
So focus on the wall and have the wow factor, right?
For the wall
what
factor,
else?
okay. What if I don't find 20 clocks? Okay, if I decide that I'm gonna put a clock and I don't find 20 clocks, or I have things here at home, can I use what I already have? In order to have harmony in the place, so you're gonna feel comfortable there, you can find 20 different objects that has the same color, for example,
Okay.
or 20 objects that has the same shapes,
Okay.
or you just need to get a point in common. If you're going for color, try to look at the place and get a color that is already there
Okay.
and repeat into this object.
Right.
That's how you connect a place to the other. And that's how you start connecting the house. For example, this is for the living room, and it's an open kitchen, so you can see everything there is in the kitchen. The kitchen has a main color. Repeat this color into the wall, into the clocks that it's in the living room. You know, and what I like to say is, if you are going to put colors, if you're going to be creative, use things that are easy to substitute, like cushions, like so instead of using very colorful sofa that it's hard to replace, it's hard to go for the cushions.
Okay. Get a neutral color for the sofa.
Yeah.
And be colorful
Creative
on the cushions.
in the cushions, because
Okay.
it's easier, you know, to be replaced, to be, if you have everything matched and you have a problem with your sofa, you're gonna have problem with the rest of it,
Okay.
you know. So be creative with things easier to be replaced.
Amazing. All right. So to wrap things up, Renata, I want to invite you to play a game. It's called Hot Ping Pong.
Okay.
And the way it works is this. Don't worry, it doesn't involve us taking off our clothes. The way it works is I'm a good host for a late night comedy show. At least I think. So the way it works is I'm going to shout out a certain space in the house.
Yep.
And you give me one hack that we can utilize, simple hack, to create an amazing experience, and that most people don't think about it.
Sure.
Cool?
Yep.
Ready? All right. Bedroom.
Okay.
Master bedroom.
Master bedroom. Make sure you have at least 4 pillows on your bed.
Okay.
You can use the 2 extra ones for the sofa bed,
Okay.
and make the bed look good. Also, curtains. Curtains, especially because it's cotton one or linen one, makes the space, it dress up the wall. I cannot
Dress up
talk
the wall.
better about
Okay,
curtains.
cool. Bathroom.
Okay, I was still in the. Put a wine into the.
Put
the
a
bed.
wine in a room. Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
Yeah. Okay.
Bathroom.
Have a vase of plants. Have your.
Natural plants in the bathroom.
Never natural, because who's gonna water the plants gonna
Okay.
die. So, but things for you to remove your makeup. Otherwise, all the tower is gonna be ruined. Also, blow dryer.
How they can create the spot feeling in the bathroom. I like that.
I love to make it as different as possible. So I put frames, I put phrases, I put different phrases, I put phrases related for you to enjoy yourself once you're in the bathroom. To use the bath, I like to be able to give them a scent into the bath. Normally, everybody has or most of us has a bath at home, and we don't use. Just take a shower. What can you do for them to enjoy the place since they are out of town?
Makes sense.
You know.
Living room.
Create moods and space. Play with light. In order to play with light, in order to recognize the light, you need the shadow as well. So, for example, if you're putting a chair in the living room, put a lamp close to it, put some books, put a place where you can put your legs on. So you are inviting them to use the space.
To relax in the place.
Also, have plants at home, please. Plants change everything.
Okay.
It can be as fake. It doesn't matter. You know,
but if you're gonna buy fake ones, make sure you buy like
good ones.
nice one that looks
Good
nice,
ones.
please.
Yes. But this is the little touch that changes everything.
Okay. Kids bedroom.
Don't be restrictive by gender or by age.
Okay.
So if you are in Orlando, for example, when you want to use a character, don't go for cars, which is only or mostly for boys, or princess, which is mostly for girls. Go for Mickey and Minnie. It
has to be
all
neutral
the ages.
because you never know if the couple has two girls or two
girls or two
boys.
boys or-
And also, let me share something, an experience that I had. Make sure it's not something scary.
Of course.
You know, no, seriously.
Yeah.
I stayed in Airbnb one time. I took my kids there, and they have this like Batman and dragons and all this stuff in the room. It creeped me out.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I don't like this stuff, right? So make sure it's something nice. Kitchen.
Okay, for the kitchen, it's not actually kitchen, it's dining area, but
Dining area, okay?
okay, set the table, set the scene, have something nice into the table, have some flowers or something there that they can get inside and see that there was some care into that place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they need to understand that when families come together,
Yeah.
everything happens around the kitchen, right?
Yeah.
And if you're going to have a property that's like for 8, 10, 12 people, make sure you have enough numbers of pots. Make sure you have serving dishes, right? Because if they're going to do a lasagna or, a pasta on a Sunday for everybody, they don't have where to serve that. Make sure you
I think the
Be
most
around
interesting
yourself.
thing about this for all your students is I know you tell everything to happen in 24 hours, but make them the first guest. So spend a night in the house and cook and take a shower.
Oh, that's a very good tip. So
Yeah.
before I launch the Airbnb,
Yeah.
it's good for me to stay in the place and experience the place myself.
Yes.
And make sure you have sex in the bed, all right? Because I stayed in an Airbnb one time. No, I'm dead serious. I stayed in an Airbnb one time that the bed made so much noise, it turned me off. So
It could be a problem, an issue for neighbors, for,
test drive the bed.
yeah, test drive the shower,
Test drive the shower. Okay?
Yeah,
Cool.
yeah. And
So what about
test
outside?
drive the kitchen,
Test drive the kitchen,
cook there.
Yes, because I built that Airbnb in the beginning, and because I don't have where to live, and I jumped from Airbnbs to Airbnbs. I stayed in this Airbnb. I went to cook a pasta. I didn't have the colander, the thing to to drain the pasta.
Test drive.
Something easy like that. Outside spaces.
For outside space, use wooden furniture if it's possible. Good ones that's not gonna run. I mean, if you're going outside and you don't want to be replacing everything every 3 months, use good stuff. You can go for marketplace on Facebook where people is selling things for a good price with good quality. I like to put again create a scene, put flip-flops to use. For example, if you're doing a chair, put a table, put a glass of wine, put a wine there, invite them to use. If you are staying there, you will see during this first use, you will realize what you are doing there
What's missing, right?
and what's missing. But when you're doing there, what ideas do you have of enjoying this place? Because here I have a blank wall. I don't know what they have outside.
Got it.
For example, if it's a swimming pool, someone would like to get a tent and they would like to get a chair. So the ideas will come from you.
Got it.
So whenever they think of doing, they have that piece there.
Okay. And one thing that before I let you go, because we don't want to pay you overtime, is observe the trends, right? So nowadays the trend is, for example, yoga. Everybody's into yoga, right? And if you can take part of your listing, part of a unit, part of your property, and I'm gonna take this little corner and I'm gonna transform in a yoga place. And it doesn't matter if it's only have a space for a couple of mats, right? But once you lay down and you transform that place, that's an amazing selling point. And people that are into yogas, and I travel a lot and I see them in the airport, they carry their own yoga mats. They're like crazy about this stuff. They will choose your Airbnb over other Airbnbs. And even people that don't care about yoga, they sometimes dream about doing this. Like, I'm going to go here. Am I going to do yoga?
Yeah, a good point as well is, for example, if you have a guest, I try to listen to my guests, and if they ask me for something, for example, I want a kettle because I drink lots of tea. instead of thinking, why don't you microwave it? I try to send this. I buy on Amazon and send to all other units. I ask the cleaner to put it there. And
So which means is once you identify the need in one unit
Up
that
and
was
go.
brought up by a guest,
Yeah.
you are always proactive,
Yeah.
and you already buy for all your units.
a good thing to put, for
Makes sense.
example, you know, one of those cables for iPhone, water.
Yeah, the multiple chargers.
The multiple chargers, yes. Have one in the house. Use it there. You can even, you know what I did? I glued into the kitchen so they cannot remove, because it's common. I'm not saying they are stealing, and that's not what they intend to do, but
Yeah, sometimes
they
they
are
don't
carrying
realize
all
it.
around, and then it's
It
gone.
things gets lost, and then you have to
and
replace
people
it.
is calling me saying, "Hey, I got it here. What do I do?" And I say, "Keep it." But you still have to replace every time. So instead of being replacing and everything, I did glue mine.
Okay. Renata, I can't thank you so much for all the amazing tips you brought to us. I hope I hope you took notes of all this stuff. If not, you can rewatch this again. And I'm trying to convince her to prepare a full mini course with many modules with tons of tips, based on our experience. What I like about Renata is that she teaches based on experience, right? And as you know, I don't teach anything that I have done. So thank you very much to join us in this session. It means a lot to me. I'm pretty sure they all liked it. Put your comment below if you come up with any different idea or different hack. Put it below, and if you have any questions, also put your question below. We're gonna try to get her back here to answer the questions. Okay?
Thanks for having me here.
Appreciate it.